In February, I had a nice list of picture cars videos I wanted to make. But then I watched episode 8 of WandaVision, and I saw the dang Buick Verano, and making this episode moved up on that list. Since then, I've been ruminating, outlining, and researching everything I could about this car in the context of the show. And with the recent and rightfully awarded accolades, it's time for me to come out and say it. I hate the Buick Verano and everything it represents for WandaVision. The show has superb acting, production design, and editing, and all of that just grinds to a halt with that Buick. In preparing this video, I found that I wasn't the only one who felt this way. A collection of blogs from The Ringer to Newswheel had the same question. Why the hex would Wanda drive a Buick Verano? If you had any positive vibes from this car, no. The Buick Verano is a dumb choice and you should think so too. Let me pull you out of the Marvel hypnosis and tell you why. Because I like being so thorough in my investigations, we're going to start with the relationship between Marvel and General Motors. It isn't as extensive as the relationship between Marvel and Audi, or perhaps even Marvel and Lexus, but GM and Marvel have a history. Famously, Natasha Romanoff rolled into Captain America Winter Soldier in a 2014 Corvette Stingray. Throughout that same movie, we have the Chevy Impala driven by Sam Wilson, the Tahoe driven by Nick Fury, and the Silverado driven by Steve. There was, I think, one attached commercial in partnership with the movie, whereas Audi has had Tom Holland, Brie Larson, and Robert Downey Jr. help sell their cars. Recently, electric offerings. Before WandaVision, GM had another shot at exposure with a strong Marvel heroine. The 2019 film Captain Marvel saw the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. driving Impalas, Malibus, and their own share of Buicks. However, these models were from the 80s and 90s. More of a nostalgic trip as opposed to a marketing piece. But instead of providing Carol Danvers with a GM nameplate, the undercover superhero was presented with an oddly modified Harley-Davidson Sportster 1000. WandaVision doesn't have show cars, meaning they didn't require a partnership with an automobile brand. But when it came time to begin principal photography, the show creators needed a fleet of agent vehicles for SWORD and the FBI. GM's Suburban, Tahoe, and Yukon have been shown on screen as fleet vehicles before, so to continue that presence seemed natural. And while Ford has government fleet vehicles as well, they've been largely quiet cinematically, smartly so because they don't want their products associated with the bad guys at SWORD, even if the opposition is supposed to be systemically good. However, even after scrubbing the series, it's not explicit that any nefarious SWORD agents drive a GM vehicle. Fun fact, you will never see an iPhone in the hands of a movie villain for the same reason. Disney isn't afraid of automotive partnerships, but why give a Buick to Wanda? Buick didn't have the marketing partnership on WandaVision that GM had with Winter Soldier. Buick said in a statement, "While GM provided some vehicles for the production of WandaVision, such as the Buick Enclave, GMC Yukon, and GMC Sierra, we did not provide or sponsor the Buick Verano's appearance in the show." Throughout the show, Wanda and Vision always drive a Buick, or at least have a Buick in the driveway. When they arrive in Westview in the season premiere, they do so at the wheel of a 1956 Buick Special, a car that screams 50s sitcom in American suburbia. As the hex evolves, that car becomes a 1972 Buick LeSabre, then a 1980 LeSabre, and then a 2006 Buick LaCrosse. So yes, the progression to Buick Verano makes sense initially. Buick finished its statement to Automotive News by saying, "We find the alignment between Buick and a strong female lead character like Wanda to be a great fit, and we're thrilled she's driving a Buick." But when they arrive to Westview through the sitcom, who's driving the car? Is it the strong female lead? A lot of legacy luxury brands, Buick, Lexus, Lincoln, are discovering the need to attract new buyers. How do you keep a nearly 120-year-old brand relevant and attract those new buyers? We know that GM is using their luxury brands of Cadillac and Buick to transition their full lineup to electric. The challenge of relevancy, however, doesn't hinge on the design of the car, but on how the car is marketed. Last year was a poor showing for automotive commercials. Most of the exciting work in automotive marketing was for the reveals. So you saw a lot of brands hiring Disney or other production studios to craft bespoke release material for the Bronco, F-150, Chevy Bolt, Ram TRX, and so on. But for the most part, commercials were pretty much the same for every automotive company with little variance. With COVID, times are rough, buy a car. So with that, I'm going to only look at the Buick marketing from 2019. The most watched car commercial of 2019, in fact, titled Mistaken Identity, demonstrates how the year's Buick commercials skewed in terms of who those actors were targeting. For the preceding analyses, I'm solely looking at the actors of ownership age. So anytime there are kids in the mix, like the soccer team in Mistaken Identity, I'll ignore those demographics. But I will also be taking into consideration the referenced actors. In the soccer team scene, a boy references his mom's car, so the mom is a relevant data point. In this commercial, 7 out of 10 actors were women. Of those, a group of 4 women surfers were used to market the roof rack of a model that was discontinued the following year. The remaining 3 women were either playing a mother or significant other. The Newswheel determined that the commercial received 5.7 billion impressions with its $31.7 million spent. In essence, Buick spent half a penny per impression to market the notion of women and Buicks. Let's go further. In the ad titled More Kids, a mother unloads her children and speaks with a woman passing by with a stroller. The resulting conversation finishes with the call to action.
Hey honey, we should get one of those and have like a ton more kids.
If you follow my channel, then you know that I have 3 kids. My wife was brave enough to bring these beautiful souls into our world. But I can't tell you how frustrating it is for Buick to show people wanting to have more kids just because they saw a Buick. But at least having a Buick will bring more sophistication and order into a mother's life, right? In a commercial for the Buick Envision, a mother returns home with the new car, much to the amazement of her son. But lo and behold, the mother doesn't even bring the car home from the dealer before completing a stereotypically matriarchal duty. The title of the ad, Groceries. But at least those groceries look neat and orderly. So while admittedly it's not the main demographic, the majority of the marketing material is for mothers who are old enough to have money. But let's move on to the sexism within still photography material for Buick's lineup. For this, I looked at Buick's website and each gallery of the current lineup. You can pause the video to go through this now, or wait until after the video and find the same things I did. While some cars didn't have any actor models, of those that did, the Encore GX had 3 women and 1 man. The Envision had 3 of both, and each of those pairings were couples. The Enclave had a nuclear family of a mother, father, and 2 children, and the Enclave Avenger had 2 couples. With these pictures, there's a subconscious signal that Buick would like either wives or mothers to buy the cars for doing wife or mother things. Of the entirety of this promotional material that we've looked at, there's only one moment where a Buick is presented in a sporting or otherwise fun way, with the Regal Tour-X, discontinued after that model year. There's the unfortunate history that women in the auto industry had, and in some ways still have even in 2021. GM has done its best to steer away from the blatant sexism that existed in the most sexist car commercial in history for the Buick Riviera.
Riviera by Buick. A great and rare machine that a woman can admire and enjoy to the fullest, but only a man can really understand.
But if Buick is known most heavily in Hollywood for gangster cars like these or the Grand National in Fast and Furious, then it's not equality if you switch your brand identity to reflect the misogynistic view of a woman's role in your new marketing. There was the amazing commercial in the 80s with the Pontiac Fiero where the woman drives off leaving the man in the dust, and that's exactly the kind of thing that would make the empowering narrative cheer, even if it's unfortunately named Hold Out for the Babe with the V8. But erasing your sporty and masculine product line with less powerful, less sporty products and then marketing those cars to head of household women is not empowering in any way. Buick is not solely a mother's car, and the brand could expand so much more if GM's brand line wasn't so skewed already. Cadillac is the aggressive and sporty luxury model, while Buick is the softer luxury model. Maybe I'm not getting my thoughts across the best way. Maybe I'm still suffering from GM's decision to eliminate Pontiac instead of Buick. Maybe I can try again. GM is not being inclusive if they tear down the Buick brand, getting rid of the sporting models, then tell the male audience to go elsewhere, and to finally rebuild it with a focus on the maternal demographic. That's pandering, and pandering is not empowerment. In the final section of these essays, I like to answer the question, is this the right vehicle for the character? And I think with this car we meet an interesting fork in that narrative. I'll explain myself in a bit, but first let's identify the car. A couple of news/blog sites falsely asserted that the Verano in WandaVision was a 2019 model year, but 1. The Buick Verano was discontinued in North America after the 2016 model year, and 2. There was a model design change for the Chinese market. So what model year is this actually? This car took a lot of time for me to identify. General Motors didn't make it easy either. With 0 exterior and interior design changes, there wasn't a lot to go off of. No form changes to the exterior, no instrument cluster or control panel design changes. The only changes were in hardware and sensor suite, so they could include lane departure warning and forward collision assist. All of these changes are hidden under the body. Yes, Buick introduced certain exterior and interior colors in 2013 and 14, and discontinued a wheel design in 2015. But those aren't applicable to this base model with crystal red tint coat. But the one area that was changed and would be difficult for the layman observer to see is the rear view camera. These weren't offered on the base model Verano until the 2013 model year. Through this investigation, we noticed a few things. In the first clip where we could potentially see the camera, there is no trunk badging, which isn't uncommon when it comes to cars on set, but let's look at that final rear scene. Well, that's odd. Why would trunk badging be on one but not the other? No matter. But hey, check out that license plate. Can we say Hidden Stanley cameo? Alright. No rear view camera. So this must be a 2012 model year Buick Verano. Another fun addition I liked is the addition of the New York license plate, which fits with the in-universe connection to the Avengers compound, said to be in upstate New York. So, after the fight with Thanos and Tony Stark's funeral, the license plate shows that she made a road trip from the compound to Westview. So is this the right vehicle for the character? No. Someone who could destroy Thanos in a matter of seconds would not be driving around in a Buick Verano. It's not empowering for a strong female lead when her underpowered colleagues are in a Corvette Stingray, Harley-Davidson LimeWire, Lexus LS 500F, or Harley-Davidson Sportster. If you want to set them up as the A-team in Endgame, then you need to set them up as the A-team on the road. But while this car isn't the right vehicle for the character, it might be the right vehicle for the scene. As I tried to identify any differences, I must have clocked over 24 viewings of this heartbreaking scene. By the time I got to the 10th viewing, I was struck with the realization that the car should be the farthest thing from my mind. The scene doesn't need a flashy or even strong car. It needs to lay the foundation of a strong performance. It's the lead up to the origin of Wanda's Westview, and the audience shouldn't be paying attention to how she gets there. The focus should be on her reaction as she goes from A, the dissection of Vision, to B, Vision's dream of their future. So does the car serve the scene well? It transports the actress from A to B, it supplements the Scarlet Witch with a red paint job, and it never competes with the character at any moment. So, yeah, I think it serves the scene well. But for viewers who are struck by the Buick Verano's appearance, let's see if we can identify something better. Something that maintains the role of a red transporter and background character, but also fits the strong female lead. And, I almost forgot, it needs to be sturdy enough to throw into Agnes in the final chapter. For this exercise, I'd like to funnel out the obvious exceptions. First, because Wanda probably still hasn't fully forgiven Tony, I want to filter out Audi, Tony's car of choice. Then, let's continue by looking at the automotive company's country headquarters. How does Wanda feel about America, or Germany, or Japan? What we do know is that her notion of America was largely filtered through the lens of sitcoms, and that she was also part of the anti-American protests after the U.S. bombing of Sokovia's capital of Novi Grad. So there are some internal conflicting biases for Wanda. After the events of 2015, she's chosen to cast her lot with the Avengers and move to America. Her negative relationship with America softens as she continues her training and starts friendships with her fellow Avengers. Perhaps because of her sitcom lens of America, she may have felt that an American automobile would fit well with how she pictured American life. Because of this, we're filtering out Honda, Lexus, Toyota, BMW, Porsche, and because of that, we are left with General Motors, Ford, FCA, and Tesla. There are Teslas in the stored parking lot, so why can't we add that to the mix? So where do we go from here? Let's continue looking at sitcoms and filtering out from there. Does she want a Dick Van Dyke era vehicle, perhaps Full House? The question here is, what time period does she most relate to, especially at the present time of 2023? At this point in her life, all of her loved ones are gone. The premise of the entire show is suffering and overcoming grief, persevering with that love. In 2023, is she grieving the loss of her parents? Most likely not. So shows like The Dick Van Dyke Show and The Brady Bunch wouldn't be her heaviest influencers. Is she grieving her brother? Yes, in some ways, but mostly she's persevering through the loss of the Vision. For both of these, the time period she most heavily attaches to is her time in the Avengers compound right after Pietro dies and Vision sparks their growing friendship. The TV show chosen for the compound is Malcolm in the Middle, a sedan-friendly show. What else can we filter out of her options? We don't want the car to be performance-related, so nothing Dodge, Cadillac, or Tesla. It also shouldn't be too pricey, unless we're going for an older model, so I'm filtering out Lincoln as well as the aforementioned Buick. Through this funneling, we're left with Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Ford, Chevrolet, and GMC. I've yet to see Ford featured in a comic book movie, let alone an MCU title. Ram is a truck brand, and I'd love to see Wanda Maximoff behind the wheel of a 2-ton vehicle, but it would be a statement vehicle, and statement vehicles wouldn't work as a background character. At the same time, the MCU's shift to an electric focus with the e-tron and e-tron GT, having a truck on the highway wouldn't nurture that eco-friendly image. So we rule out trucks as well. At this point, do we go with an SUV or a sedan? In Malcolm in the Middle, house vehicles were always sedans. But in reality, there's no clear winner. If it were up to me, I'd have Wanda drive a Jeep Wrangler. They would provide broad capability to the female lead without being overpowering to the narrative. Going back to sedans, maybe the Chevy Bolt or Volt would have been nice, but there might be non-compete agreements with the Audi e-tron. Chevy Malibu is a good choice given they are still in production for the moment. Heck, the Chevy Blazer would also be an alright fit. In the end, if they needed a Buick to maintain the sitcom time hopping through the hex, then, and here's my final offer, I think the Buick Envision would have been the perfect car.
Do you get my joke?
The new Buick Envision.
For the most part, the car serves the scene by being an unassuming transporter for Wanda. While I don't think Wanda would drive a Buick, even an older model, I think the choice does better for the story than if she were to drive a Chevrolet Corvette just for her to have that moment of power. Buick's rough history and marketing for and against women subverts Wanda's power and Elizabeth's performance. There is an assortment of better options that would rid the show of this stain while still being able to evolve through the hex. A Chevrolet sedan, though not my first choice, would have likely been a better choice while still offering Elizabeth her moment to express the insane grief that most of the audience can only imagine. Thanks for watching, everybody. I've begun to be happier and happier with each new video I do. I feel like an investigative journalist. Hopefully you enjoyed it and could see the effort. If you did, hit the like button. If you have another car you'd like me to analyze, let me know in the comments below. Finally, make sure to subscribe because there's more content coming your way. Thanks again, and I will see you all in the next one.